Welcome in for a very special edition, impromptu edition, if you will, of the Northern Arizona Wranglers Roundup. James Poovey here, coming to you alongside this evening. Ben Wilson, the play-by-play voice of the Vegas Knight Hawks, a brand new franchise here in the Indoor Football League. Ben and I go back a few years. We had a chance to do a couple of games remotely at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic for Spalk. We were actually calling some Nicaraguan soccer down there in Liga Primera. So we go back a few years, and I was pleased this morning when I heard from him, and he let me know that he was going to be the voice of the Nighthawks, and Northern Arizona playing the Nighthawks on Friday night. So I wanted to have Ben on here, just talk a little bit about the franchise and how everything came to be about. So great to see you again, Ben. And just tell us a little bit about the excitement there in Las Vegas for arena football coming to town.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, James. You kind of not that you buried the lead, but the fact that we did call games together in Nicaragua remotely during the pandemic was one of those broadcast experiences that like you're just never gonna forget. I mean, what were the odds that that would happen? And I remember you were doing the game. We alternated. I remember my color analyst for a couple games. You were there in Arizona. I was in Vegas or wherever I was at the time.
San Diego, I think.
Yes. I think I was in San Diego at my parents' place for a while. So absolutely nuts that it has kind of come full circle. But yes, that is the broadcast world in a nutshell. So yeah, almost 2 years ago, we're calling Nicaraguan soccer while out of work, and here we are, IFL season getting underway. So yes, the excitement is really palpable. And for Vegas, which is, as most people know, I mean, it's been such a rapidly growing professional sports city. With the Raiders coming in, that was obviously with an NFL franchise one of the most hyped, anticipated things in the community. But to add as well now, really to have year-round football, there is such an appetite, such a craze for it, similar to how it is in Arizona. But what's unique about this individual team and this franchise is it is under the umbrella of the Vegas Golden Knights, and Bill Foley, the owner. It's the Foley Entertainment Group, and the Golden Knights were sort of that first professional team that came in, and they were kind of the team that broke the barrier. They had this amazing inaugural season, and they became a team that was just an explosive sort of fan base here in town at a brand new arena in T-Mobile. They go to the Stanley Cup final their first year. And the success of that has created just a rabid fan base in general, but B, a desire, it certainly seems like from the ownership group to expand and be more involved. So they eventually relocated the AHL franchise. They brought a team from San Antonio, relocated them to Henderson, which just started playing this last year, the Henderson team, the Silver Knights. And now they've got this the Indoor Football League team, the Vegas Knight Hawks. And what's really fun too, James, you're going to be a part of a brand new building Friday night when you come up here, because it's they just are opening a new arena, Dollar Loan Center. It's very similar, I think, to the arena you guys have in Prescott Valley, where it's very intimate, about a 6,000 seat arena. It'll be used by both the AHL and the IFL teams. So going into Henderson, which again is very convenient for a lot of fans. It's a different part of Vegas. It's a side of the city that there hasn't been a ton of like large sports complexes available. So it's cool for a lot of the fans on the southeastern side of the city who don't have to commute a ton. Makes it easy for them, but it's still expected to be like a valley-wide type fan base, and a lot of people will come from all over Vegas. So it's really just the next chapter in this city's growth, and it's a blast for me to play a small role in it.
Well, if you think about the city of Las Vegas, just the growth exponentially, especially when it comes to professional sports, they went from no sports teams. Most people that live in that town are fans of either LA teams or maybe teams from Colorado, or possibly they're Arizona Cardinal fans, maybe all over the map. They were Las Vegas Raider fans for a little while. And now they're huge fans of the Raiders since the team is there in town. What is it like, going out in public now, and are you seeing a lot of people with stickers on cars and a lot of regalia, people in their jerseys? And obviously, you mentioned the success of the NHL franchise there just right off the bat. Are you seeing a lot of, fandom around town now that obviously wouldn't have been there even just a few years ago?
No question. That's been a huge part of it. I think a lot of it in Vegas, just by nature, it's a very sort of a nomadic town where a lot of people come from all sorts of backgrounds and different places. I mean, I got the Mizzou jacket on tonight. Like, I moved from Missouri, where I went to school and was working in that market. I'm wearing this in honor of March Madness, James, even though my alma mater is terrible and not even close to sniffing the tournament. Well, the thing is, like, when you come into a new place, and it's obviously you're going to root for your teams you grew up with, and
Sure.
follow them. It's a lot easier to do that now in 2022. But yeah, to have a new team come along with no prior allegiance or history, Raiders obviously the one exception here in town, but to have a new team come in and to know like you've got your coworkers, your friends, you can all kind of become the fans of a similar same team is a really cool thing. And you've seen people really embrace that a lot. And I think too, just the idea that there's, Vegas, I think in the past has always gotten this general bad rap as just like a party town, and it's not really you're not really family friendly, but it's kind of the opposite. I mean, I've been coming out here since I was a kid. I've had relatives who've lived here basically my whole life, and it's really cool to see also these sports teams really embrace the whole family atmosphere type of it and really appeal and want to be involved in the community, because it is more than just the strip. I mean, you realize when you come out here, it is such a fast growing city. There's so much to do, and this arena is it's obviously not too far from the strip like most things are, but I mean Henderson is kind of its own own separate entity. So it is, yeah. There's that sense of community, which is interesting for a city that I think most people assume is just a collection of random people from random parts of the country and the world. And so I think that gives people a lot of pride here to to be part of these, especially these new sorts of franchises. And I have to think it's going to be the same deal here with the Knight Hawks once we get rolling here in year number 1.
Well, there is something to be said for sure about getting in on the ground floor of an organization. When they first kick things off, I had the pleasure of doing that last year with this same Northern Arizona Wranglers franchise. Now we're going into year 2, and you make some memories during that first season that you'll never forget. And I'm sure you're going to have some of that stuff going on there in Henderson, Nevada, with the Vegas Knight Hawks. Tell us how you became the voice of the Knight Hawks, Ben. I'm interested to hear this.
Yeah, I think for me, so I've lived now in Vegas about 3 years, and have called a lot of the local sports teams here, mostly on the collegiate level. So I call a lot of games for UNLV, and mostly what I do is play-by-play at least historically the collegiate level. So like a lot of Mountain West games for Stadium and Pac-12 games for FS1 or WAC for ESPN Plus, stuff like that. But being here, it's over the last 2.5, 3 years now. I have been able to get to meet a lot of the people who are in media around here, and that, I think you can't underemphasize or really feel like the implications are such that when you get to meet people, be out in the community, get to kind of acclimate yourself, it kind of leads to new things. And so this was it's interesting where you have a new team like this, but it's part of a bigger organization that you think about, like the Golden Knights. They're in the middle of their season, so things are kind of hectic. Silver Knights are in the middle of their hockey season as well. So it's not like the search was like super protracted out here for a bunch of months. It was kind of like, who's local, who do we know, and kind of going from there. So it definitely helped for me, just being obviously a local guy and having met some of the people around here that I really respect. Some of the broadcasters in our local market, which we're lucky. We have, obviously, being a larger market in Vegas, a lot of really talented, really good broadcasters, and they were kind of able to put me in touch with the right people. So I was super grateful for that. And now we come out of it. We've said it Internal Media Day Monday, and it's like, man, we're ready to roll. And we see you, James, in Northern Arizona. It almost in a way kind of feels like 2 expansion teams going at it, because I know you guys had your first year last season, but I mean no players back from last year's roster for the Wranglers. It's kind of like a fresh start for you guys, new coach as well, and really respected coach 2 coming in, and kind of the same thing for Vegas. So I feel like there's a ton of similarities at least in this first game. And like I said, I mean, I feel lucky that I was able to kind of meet the right people, and were willing to kind of help me along with it. And now here we go, first game of 16.
Well, it's all about networking, Ben, especially in this broadcasting business, as you're well aware. And it's all about making the relationships with people that you meet. And, it's great. And I got to reconnect with you here, going to get to actually finally meet you in person for the first time here in just a couple of days. And it's unbelievable. But what is your experience with the indoor football game? And have you been around it as a fan, or have you done any broadcasting in that realm, or what are your thoughts on it as a whole? It's a little bit different from the outdoor game, a little bit of a compressed field, a lot more accuracy at a premium.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my first game calling IFL football on Friday night. But as a guy from Wisconsin, growing up in the early 90s, Packer football was obviously, like another religion, essentially. And growing up as a Brett Favre and a Packer fan. So as a result, indoor football was always super popular, back in the early days of the Arena League, back, in that realm indoor football in the AFL specifically, James, there was a ton of Midwest teams. There was the old the Milwaukee Sting for very old school AFL fans. They go way back to the early 2000s, and they were like a popular draw. All their games were televised when I was growing up in Wisconsin, and so I am familiar with the game itself just from watching that a lot. There was always such a yearning for football year round, basically being in Wisconsin as such the dominant popular sport. So I've always enjoyed watching it. I've had a chance to go to a couple CFL games in Canada, and obviously IFL. While the as you mentioned, the dimensions are way different. Certainly, some of the elements are borrowed, and there's a ton more. A lot of the players and coaches have pretty extensive CFL backgrounds, kind of like the coach in Vegas, Mike Davis, who comes from the CFL and had a long, successful career there after an initial successful career in the IFL. So it's cool to see all those things come together. And I don't know how much you got to watch, James, of week one, since we in the West were on bye last week, but had the chance to watch some of those East Division games just to get a kind of a feel for the flow and general kind of tenor of the game. And I like the way that the pacing works, the way there's not many clock stoppages. You get a nice flow for the game. So I'm looking forward to see how it plays out. And I have to imagine we're going to have a lot of fireworks.
There is not a whole lot of downtime, I have to be honest with you, Ben. It's pretty much bang, bang, and there's a lot of big plays. The game has changed a lot since I was first exposed to it, I would say in the early 90s back in Dallas. A gentleman named Gary Compton, who you might be familiar with there in the Wisconsin area. He was coaching, I believe, or playing for one of those teams up in Milwaukee. For a while. He was big time in the Arena Football League. He was my first exposure to Arena Football. He was trying out for the Dallas Texans back in the day, made the team. This was about in the early 90s, but it was a lot more of a passing game back then. They hardly ever ran the football. Now they mix in a lot of RPO stuff, and it's pretty exciting. So a lot of the elements that are from normal 11-man football carry over very well here to the arena game.
Right. Oh, I remember too. It seemed like scores were, in the high 80s, almost constantly when I was a kid and watching. And I know maybe some of this was some of the week one sloppiness we saw in the games, over the last weekend in the East Division. But it definitely does feel like there's more of an emphasis now on defense, and especially too like some of the athletes on the defensive side of the ball. Like it can be just as electric on that side of it. And yeah, like the running game is a real thing. I'm really I've always been a big kicking guy in general, which I realize not many people are, but I'm fascinated to see how the kickers factor in, because there's so much more. I get the sense of, James, that can be impacted by an effective kicker. When you think about squibbing it, just trying to bang it off the wall, getting crazy caroms, and the fact that literally every possession is going to end with some sort of kick, and you have all different ways you can score points. So that's a really fascinating part of it for me as well. And from getting to know the Vegas players, I think the really interesting connection too, like Nate Criswell, the kicker for Vegas, he's one of 6 former Iowa Barnstormers who they played for last year and played for now the current coach of your Wranglers there, James, in Northern Arizona. So some really interesting connections where you come into Prescott Valley, bringing a totally new system, new roster, new coaching staff, but there will be a lot of familiarity, I would imagine, James, between the coaching staff there in Prescott Valley and a lot of these Nighthawks we'll see on Friday.
I think we both expect a competitive game Friday night. Should be a really good time there in Henderson. And you mentioned a little bit earlier that we're opening a brand new facility there. What kind of fireworks, no pun intended there, in Vegas? What can we expect Friday night? We know there's going to be lights and sirens and lasers. And is there anything else that the Nighthawks have up their sleeve for their inaugural game as a franchise?
Yeah, well, as I was saying earlier, like there's such a big element and a onus of just trying to emphasize the community, and they're having a tailgate. I know before the game they'll have a lot of autograph stuff going on after the game. They want fans to get down, see the field for the first time, and check a lot of that stuff out. So they're expected to start things early. I think they start a tailgate at about 4:30 on Friday, which will be really fun. I think what's cool too is they have, in kind of the same tone and thought of really getting the team acclimated to the community. They're doing a little, it's almost like a Hard Knocks style little behind the scenes documentary series. They just aired the first episode tonight here locally in Vegas on the same TV station we're calling the game there on Friday night. So they have really tried to and it's a little easier too when it's IFL and there's only 25-man rosters. They've really tried to create the connection with the players and the fans. So I think you'll see a lot more of that, especially in this market, especially. And adding to that, like you mentioned, all the the literal fireworks. Anybody who's been to a Vegas Golden Knights game at T-Mobile here in Las Vegas in the NHL, I mean, it is just it's an unreal experience, unlike anything most people have seen with the game day experience. And there will be a lot of those same things that are carried over. I can't promise, like, it's not gonna be like the Blue Man Group playing in every single opening kickoff rally or something, but there is going to be a lot and a lot of excitement in the building just in general. So, and you think about too, I mentioned all those Iowa Barnstormer connections and how a lot of really good, talented IFL players are on the roster who they've tried to form this expansion team. A lot of UNLV connections too. So they have played up the local angle. There's 6 or 7 guys who have experience either playing for UNLV or being from Las Vegas specifically. So that's given fans a good reason to come out as well. And I know those connections are going to run deep for sure all year.
That's one thing that's really enjoyable about the indoor football league is it's about the community. We talk about the smaller arenas that we play in. They're not 12 to 15,000 seats. They're right around 5 to 6,000 typically. And one of the nice things is that the fans get to come onto the field after the game, mix and mingle with the players and coaches, take pictures, sign footballs and all that kind of stuff, sign the photographs. And it's just a really good time. Everyone leaves with a smile on their face, win or lose. At the end of the night after an indoor football league game, everybody's usually had a pretty good time.
Yeah, I get that sense, and just from talking to a lot of the players too, James, I'm sure it's been the same for you. I mean, these guys understand. We're obviously in this business, the reality of where the hierarchy is in overall professional football. Like for a lot of these guys, it's their last chance to really make an impression, and for many of them too, you think about how 2020 just threw a wrench into so many different people's lives. But for a lot of these guys, there's a good chunk of the roster, at least for Vegas, where they come out of school with really high hopes, thoughts of maybe getting drafted or at least being a training camp invite. COVID hits, throws a wrench in a lot of different things. And a lot of them just had to kind of scramble and grind and take last year off and just sort of figure out a way to stay in shape and get an opportunity. So it is really a true testing ground and a chance to prove yourself. And even just for me talking to them, like a lot of the guys, they were so eager to start sharing their stories with me and wanted to, to kind of help me help them, so to speak, and be able to share their stories on the air, which is a very unique thing. You don't get that in a lot of team sports where sometimes it's really guarded and they just want to keep to themselves. A lot of these guys, I can tell, James, they get it. I mean, they have tremendous talent. A lot of them come from really good backgrounds and pedigrees who've had some NFL practice squad experience, CFL experience, but they understand, like, this is kind of your put up or shut up time. And I think a lot of them too are, with having so many fans in the building, brand new franchise, are really excited for it.
Well, it's great that they're able to open up to you, Ben. That's one of your talents, is being able to talk with those guys and kind of let them see your passion for broadcasting and for the team, and that kind of comes through, and that allows them to open up and really kind of expose themselves to you and really be able to tell their story with a really sense of genuineness, if you will. So that's a really good stuff right there. We look forward to seeing you up in Las Vegas proper, if you will, there over the next 36 hours or so. And I appreciate your time here tonight, getting to know you a little bit more as the Vegas Knight Hawks play-by-play voice. You can watch Ben this Friday night against our Northern Arizona Wranglers. They'll be on the Indoor Football League YouTube channel, a 7 p.m. Pacific kickoff. That'll be 10 p.m. Eastern now with all the time changing. Maybe one of our last few times we have that here in the United States, but we'll see. Ben, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll see you this Friday.
Thanks, James. Yeah, had a blast. Have a safe trip up here, and looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Sounds good.